Well, today is a very special show as we follow up from our recent 10-day visit to Australia on Transit Unplugged. I'm Paul Comfort, and great to have with me my good friend,
Kelly Chapman.
Kelly.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah. Kelly and I are going to co-host today's podcast. Most of you follow the show on video and audio know that Transit Unplugged, myself and Jaime Quadra, our video director, and Kelly and a bunch of other folks from our team visited Australia in the 2 weeks prior to the American holiday called Thanksgiving. And I actually returned the night before Thanksgiving, as did Jamie, back to our country here. And since then, we've been having follow-up TV shows. We've had one. The first one was from our trip to Melbourne and Tasmania. And while we were there, we recorded some interviews with some folks that we thought we'd bring you on the audio podcast as well. And then we spent some time in the Brisbane area, and we have some interviews from that area as well on the show. But Kelly, when we were there, what struck me was, and I've known this before because I've known some of the ladies there, but you have a lot of very strong, powerful leaders in transportation that are women. And so we wanted to do a show about some of the great women in transport from Australia.
Yeah, I was really excited that you had that idea because it's true. We got to, in that 10 days, we really got to connect with so many of them. And like you and I spoke about, not only are they impressive in their careers, but they bring so much passion to their jobs. And it was just really fun and just such a pleasure to spend time with them and hear their thoughts on what's happening in the world of public transport.
Yeah, we actually had several more lined up for the video while we were there, but various things happened while we were there. We couldn't get them all on video, but we wanted to at least bring you this audio podcast with several of them. And first off, I'm excited to have with us Lauren Streifer. Tell us about her, Kelly.
Well, Lauren's quite amazing, isn't she? So Lauren Streifer, she's the Executive Director of the Public Transport Association of Australia and New Zealand, which we commonly call PTAANZ. And she is her energy is contagious and you just want to jump on board with her. She talks about starting a revolution and she feels like the right person for it. And I just love that, alongside the passion she's bringing to her job, she told us that she's also found time to write a children's book on the side. Like, that woman's incredible.
She is. I really bonded with her and clicked with her while we were there. She brought us a copy of the book I brought home and read it to my grandkids, and they loved it, and I posted it. And so she's going to be our first guest today. And then quickly, we'll be talking with Jamie Lee Owens, who is chair of that PTAANZ group's Emerging Mobility Leaders. She was great. And then we talked to Katie Cooper, who's CEO of Metro Tasmania. Kelly, you and I met her while we were at the BIC conference.
Yeah, and oh my goodness, none of us could believe how much sunshine you were getting as you walked around Australia in Hobart, which is often cold and windy. We just had the most beautiful day there with Katie. And I loved, Katie has a really interesting story. Her background's in aviation, and she was talking to us about how she brings that experience of aviation and the operations into bus and how the worlds share many common themes, and she's able to really, benefit from that experience in her current role.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And, we told you that, but it seems like wherever we go for Transit Unplugged TV, the good weather always just precedes us. I'll never forget the time we were in Vancouver, Canada, and, my friend Kevin Quinn, who worked with me at MTA in Baltimore, now CEO there, said, Paul, we've basically had rain for 6 months every day before you got here. And then today the sun comes out. So we're definitely blessed. And then it's very exciting to be with Michelle Batsas, who we were able to actually record while we were there because it was like the day before or the day of her first day on a new job. Tell us about Michelle's new job and what she's doing there with Journey Makers.
So Michelle is in such an exciting position. Yarra Trams is one of the most iconic businesses in Melbourne. And she is the Executive Director of Government and Stakeholder Relations, which means she's that real triage point between all the key stakeholders in government and the operation. And we're really so pleased that we could get to talk to her and hear some of her stories and experiences of what's happening in Yarra Trams. It's such an exciting time to be a part of it. And she just brings so much energy into everything she does. And as a lot of listeners know, she also has a podcast of Women Who Move Nations. And we're just really excited to follow her journey there.
Yeah, and we're going to have all 4 of those interviews for you today. Michelle is the primary interview. We'll bring that to you last. Michelle and I also had a relationship via co-contributors to my cookbook, Comfort Food. And she has a great story today to tell about that on her interview and about her grandmother, who really influenced her interest in public transportation. That'll be on the interview that she brings up later. So, Kelly, again, I just want to publicly thank you for helping to arrange what's been one of the very best trips we've ever had on Transit Unplugged. Every detail of the 40 events that we did during the 10 days there, you had a hand in organizing, and they all went off without a hitch. So fantastic. You may have a future in event planning in your future if software doesn't work out. No, just kidding.
Thanks, Paul. It was an absolute pleasure. And, it was a pleasure because the people we were connecting to are just so willing to give, to share their stories, to connect with us. So, I want to also thank everyone who said yes and got involved and shared a little piece of their, a little part of their world with us. It was so special, such a great time. Thank you.
Absolutely. And it was a joy for me, in addition to all these interviews we did, to actually meet our company staff, our Modaxo staff there in Brisbane, where your office is and where Rod Biggers is and all the team. It was wonderful. Thank you to them as well for helping sponsor this whole trip, making it possible and allowing us to share what we're doing right today. Best practices from some of the top leaders in Australia with the rest of the world. Kelly, let's jump in with our first interview, which is with Lauren Streifer, Executive Director of PTAANZ.
Fantastic.
Tell us about your transit association here.
So the Public Transport Association of Australia and New Zealand actually includes all government departments across the region, and it's really led by the government authorities to make sure that their vision is realised in the region.
And what is that vision?
So one part of it is that Australia has very ambitious net zero goals, and we've actually seen from research that if you move 30% of people from driving to public and active transport, you can actually achieve our net zero obligations with that change alone.
And what would you say the state of public transportation is here in Australia? We're out of the pandemic now, we're on to what's happening right now. What do you see for the future?
Well, the really cool thing is that we have the biggest public transport investment that we've ever seen in our history. And so now we're seeing the finalization of some of these major projects that are tens of billions of dollars, and they're being realized and being operationalized so you can use them. So over the next few months, you'll actually be able to come out of Sydney Metro and see how cities are transformed by public transport.
Thanks. Well, I know they got the right person leading the association and you with all the energy and experience. I can't wait to see what you guys are going to do next.
Oh, thanks so much.
What a great interview with Lauren. And, while we were there in Melbourne, we went to an iconic station called Flinders Street Station. It's where we actually did the opening of the TV show. And while we were there, Kelly, you introduced me to an up-and-coming young leader there. Tell me about her.
Jamie Lee Owen. She works for Metro Trains Melbourne, but she is also, again, another passionate woman, and she is the chair of PTAANZ Emerging Mobility Leaders. She's playing a big part in helping encourage, lots of the public transit leaders up and coming around Australia to get opportunities, get exposure, get connected to the right people. And a little side note, if you saw the Transit Unplugged episode, she's wearing a shirt she made herself covered in Trams, which was just fantastic.
That's great. Let's jump into that quick interview right now.
Jamie, you're the president of the Emerging Mobility Leaders program. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you. I'm the chair of the Emerging Mobility Leaders program. We were formed in 2021 as a committee under the PTAANZ, so the Public Transport Association Australia and New Zealand. And our role is to champion and platform young and emerging professionals in the public transport industry.
That's great. And what's your job currently?
Currently, I'm the chair, but I've been on the committee since 2021. And it's been an absolute privilege and an honour to have been there as a contributing member and now sort of graduate into the chair position, leading the group, and then graduate out.
That's great. And do you all have any projects you're working on now?
Yeah, we do. So we do a series of webinars and site tours with a lot of member organisations. The thing we're most proud of is our biannual seminar. So it's a seminar that's designed by emerging professionals for emerging professionals. And our next one will be early 2026.
Very good. And I'm passionate about bringing young people into our industry. I really think it's an important part of the function of us older folks, let's say over the 40 crowd, is to cultivate younger people to coming in. And do you all play a role in that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're very lucky to have great membership and mentorship from member organisations, but we also have members and mentors who advocate for us and champion for us, and that includes giving a platform to get up and speak. So that's really important, as well as that mentorship.
Jamie, tell me about the diversity of the type of jobs that are represented
Yeah, absolutely. So our group is diverse in terms of geographic location across Australia and New Zealand, as well as experience and education. So we have planners, we have engineers, we have project managers, we have people who work in comms. And we really think that diversity of experience and education and thought is kind of the future of our industry. So we're happy to cultivate it.
Now, if I'm a young person, let's say maybe one of my kids in their 20s, what would be your pitch to them, why they should get involved in the public transportation industry?
Yeah, public transport is social justice. And particularly if you're young, if you're in your 20s, I imagine really believe in sustainability and lowering emissions. And we're a big industry that could have a big part in that. So yeah, that's why I'd say get on board because we're the future.
What a great interview with Jamie Lee Owens. Now let's listen to Katie Cooper. After we left Melbourne, we were on that search for the Tasmanian devil, right, Kelly? We went down to Tasmania to find them, and we got to meet a fantastic leader there at the Bus Industry Confederation Conference, which was being held in Hobart, the capital. We walked outside into the beautiful sunshine, and who did I get to meet?
You met Katie Cooper, who is the CEO of Metro Tasmania, who was kind enough, even though she was the host of the big conference, she was kind enough to give us some time on a beautiful sunny morning in Hobart. Thanks, Katie.
Hi, Paul. Welcome to Hobart. It's great to have you here.
This is beautiful, Katie.
We have turned the weather on for you down here at the waterfront in Hobart today.
Thank you. Well, tell us about Metro Tasmania, the transit system here.
Metro Tasmania is the largest Tasmanian-owned public transport provider here in the state, and we operate in Hobart, Burnie and Launceston, and we operate buses. So really we are a bus state. So that's why it's really exciting that Bic is here with us, because this is what we do and what we do well. We have about 550 staff who service all the community around the areas that we operate, and it's great to be able to help people connect from where they go, to go to school, to go to work, to go home, to go see friends and family, or perhaps just get their groceries.
What kind of big projects do you have going on here?
Metro Tasmania is actually running a couple of really exciting projects at the moment, both on zero-emission bus trials. So we're in our northern depot in Launceston. We're operating a battery electric bus trial to help us determine how the battery electric buses operate in our environment. And down here in Hobart, we're about to commence a hydrogen electric bus trial, which we're operating down here. So in our Mornington yard, we're going to be starting imminently with actually running some hydrogen buses so we can compare both technologies simultaneously. Clearly, that will help us with our investment decisions going forward, and that's been supported with the Tasmanian government. So really excited to see the results of that over the coming years.
Katie, I recently got to interview Andy Lord, the Commissioner of Transport for London. You and he have something in common. You both have a strong background in aviation. You ran the Melbourne Airport, right?
Yes, so I was running operations at Melbourne Airport prior to coming here, and I've worked in the UK and had airlines and airports, so extensive aviation experience.
And that's interesting to me. Tell me about kind of like, similarities, differences, and what you bring from the aviation industry to public transport.
There's a lot of similarities between aviation and public transport. The concept of a route that an airline flies is very similar to a route that a bus or a train will operate through. The catchment areas that you're using for your pedestrian or for your passengers or for passengers in both forms is very, very similar. The concepts are the same in the sense that it's about on-time efficiency, it's about safety, it's about moving people and goods as quickly and as safely as we can from point A to point B. So those similarities are very clear. And I think one of the things that aviation do incredibly well, and I think public transport do as well, but really is that safety focus about how do you keep the travelling public safe. And obviously there's some differences, working on a road versus working in the air. One of the things that I like about the Tasmanian market is we're all in one time zone. So compared to perhaps working in an international aviation environment, slightly less complex in some respects, but very enjoyable to be able to really help the communities in which we serve. And that's what both industries are about.
Katie, speaking of the waterfront, this is a great place to host the BIC conference here, the bus conference. For somebody like me, the first time I'm here coming, what's a great place or a couple places we could visit?
There's a lot to do here in Hobart, and even just within 15 or 20 minutes, we've got Richmond, which is a quaint little town that's great to have a walk around. But really importantly, it's actually in a wine region that you can actually stop and have some beautiful wines and some great chocolates and even some cheese. And that's all within about 15 or 20 minutes of the city. And that's always a great day out. Here in the city, we've got a lot of heritage that you can have a wander around. There's Port Arthur, a little bit further down the coast if you want a day trip that's incredibly historic, particularly based on the convict heritage of Australia. So if you're interested in history, that's another great thing to do.
That's awesome. Great interview with Katie Cooper. Now we jump into the main interview today, which Kelly and I just did over Zoom just a week or so ago with Michelle Batsas. Michelle and I have a history goes back quite a few years, back actually prior to me having the Transit Unplugged television show. When we just had the podcast, I toured Australia with some of our trapeze leaders at the time and got to talk to her some. And afterwards, we did a shared podcast where we share. She has a podcast called Women Who Move the Nations, and we did a joint podcast with her and some other ladies who are strong leaders in transport there in Australia. And this time she's got a new role. Tell us about it, Kelly.
So Michelle is now the Executive Director of Government and Stakeholder Relations at Yarra Trams. And we're excited to hear a bit more about what's happening in Michelle's world today.
Yeah, she's got a great role. This Yarra Trams, people know I love trains, and Yarra Trams is the largest tram network in the world. Amazing. And we got there. Kelly took me on trips down to the beach on it. We'll show you all of that. You'll get to see it if you watch our Melbourne episode of Transit Unplugged TV. But for now, let's jump into this great interview with a very articulate leader there in Australia, Michelle Batsas. Great to have with us on this very special episode from our recent trip to Australia, a follow-up interview with my good friend, Michelle Batsas. Michelle, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Paul. Great to be with you too.
Yeah, and as our co-host continuing on the program today, Kelly Chapman, who was the associate producer of our Transit Unplugged TV episodes that were filmed in Australia. Kelly, welcome.
Thank you, Paul. Great to be here too.
Yeah.
And great to be chatting with you too, Kelly.
So today, Michelle, we're focusing on women in transit in Australia, and several of them that were interviewed on our television show. While we were there in Australia, just before U.S. Thanksgiving, we had a chance to see you, but we didn't get a chance to talk to you because you were kind of in between jobs and just were getting ready to start there. So tell us about your new job and what's going on in Melbourne.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. When I saw you, I was, the week, I think, before I started at Yarra Trams. And I'm the Executive Director of Government and Stakeholder Relations for Yarra Trams. And just for the benefit of your audience, Yarra Trams is the world's largest tram network, and we're all very, very proud to be working there. So as context for your listeners, Melbourne is the most incredible city. So Melbourne in the state of Victoria in Australia, we are known for cafe, coffee culture, art. It's a really interesting, lively, livable city. But at the heart of it is our tram network. And when you visit our city, you are just seeing all the trams and all the streets. And our tram network is really iconic. I'm sure you saw this, Paul, right? Just about how it's really the heartbeat of our city. And Yarra Trams operates Melbourne's network, and we move more than 200 million passengers a year. So it's a big network. There's more than 500 trams. I think we've got about 24 routes and over 250 kilometres of track, right? So it's a large network, and we're delivering around 5,000 services a day. So there's 4 million passengers every week that we are connecting them to their communities, jobs, healthcare, recreation, and for people to be able to see their loved ones. So it's a really important role that we play. And the size of the network, it's really hard almost to articulate how much it's integral to our public transport network and fabric. Swanston Street is the main corridor in Melbourne that runs right through, and it's the busiest light rail corridor in the world. I don't know, Paul, did you happen to go down there and see that?
We went all over the place. Kelly was set up all of our visits. And did we go there, Kelly? I can't remember.
You did go down Swanston Street many times.
Yeah, okay. It was amazing. I know we went down, we rode down to the beach. What beach were we at there?
St. Kilda. We went down to St. Kilda Beach.
That was fun, man. What a great place. And you know what I love about it, Michelle, is the downtown central business district is free. So that's where it's, I'm sure, the most hop on, hop off activity anyway. But I love the fact that you can just jump on and jump off without having to interact with a fare machine and all that if you're in the central business district.
I think our network is really special, and we do have this real focus on passengers. And Paul, you're talking about the free tram zone, which is in our central business district. And it's so popular. As you say, people can just hop on and hop off and not worry about a ticket. And it's really designed to move people safely and efficiently. But what I love about Melbourne, we have so many visitors every year, millions of visitors, and we're Australia's major events capital. I like to think sometimes maybe we're the events capital of the world. I'm not sure. But, for your global audience, you would know events like the Tennis Australian Open, which is on at the moment. We've got the Formula One Grand Prix. We're the main home city for the Australian Football League, the AFL, which is huge here. And so we have visitors in our city and we're moving them all around as well. So, it's a really important role that we play to get people to where they need to go in the most safe and efficient way possible. And we're focused on delivering an outstanding passenger experience. And for anyone who hasn't been to Melbourne, I'd encourage them to come if you're a public transport advocate, and we'll host you because it's such a fascinating city to see on how we move around.
It's such an icon to work for. So what attracted you to work for Yarra Trams? What was the big pull for you?
Well, I think there's a couple of things, Kelly, and you both know I've worked in this public transport industry for over 10 years, both private and public sector, and it means so much to me personally. And I'm not sure I've shared this with you before, but when I was young, like one of my earliest memories when I was 4 or 5 years old is catching the tram with my grandma, who I called Baba, Macedonian background. And for my grandma, she was a migrant. She came from Europe, I think when she was 9 years old. And she didn't know the language and she never learned how to drive. And that was just a thing back then. There were lots of women who relied on their husband to drive them around. But obviously they go to work. And so for my grandmother, so she lived in Northcote, which is an inner city suburb in Melbourne, serviced by the 86 tram route. And I remember being so young and going with her, and we'd hop on the tram, and back then you had conductors you'd pay your coins to get your ticket. It's not the fancy ticketing systems that we have now, but we would hop on the tram and we'd go either two ways, one up the hill and we'd go to the shopping centre, she might stop in at the doctor's, or we would go the other way into the city, into a department store that back then was the luxury department store Myer. And it was so special to me. And it was only probably when I began working in transport that I really made this link of how public transport is such an essential service. And for people who don't have other choices of how to get around, it fundamentally unlocks their ability to participate in society. So my grandma was using it to go shopping, to go to the doctors, to go see friends. And if the tram route wasn't there, I'm actually not sure how she would have gotten around. And so for me, I've actually got this really special connection to our tram network. I'm such a tram fan. And so, the opportunity to work at Yarra Trams was just absolutely irresistible to me because it merges the public transport, it merges that passion I have for those memories I have with my grandma and the tram network. And I'm a big tram catcher now. So, I'm a customer, but I also have that privilege of working there to help deliver services.
The company you work with, Yarra Journey Makers, the parent company, right, is a combination of two companies?
Yeah, so Yarra Journey Makers is a joint venture between Transdev, which you would know is a global operator in the public transport space, lots of international expertise that they've brought, and also John Holland. And I think it's incredible for us. So we've recently become the proud operator of Yarra Trams. It's incredible to be able to leverage the different expertise of our parent companies who operate in different cities and maintain rolling stock and, just really have that ability to draw in from peers. And we're really focused on getting the basics right, reliability and punctuality. As you know, Paul, people want their services to be on time. They want to know it's coming. And we've also got a really big focus on customer experience and including in making sure that we give customers the information they need to plan where they need to go. So, one of our key commitments is to improve real-time information. And that's all about, as you would know, it's the technology and data that underpins it, right through to the information that people are receiving, whether it's on their app of choice, on the screens at the stops. We're making sure that our customers will have the info that they need. And that's really exciting.
And it's your job as director of engagement. I want you to tell me what that is, but with your background, having been all the things that you've done, right? From the podcasting to the head of the association, to the head of future mobility at the Victorian Department of Transportation and Planning, all those things seems to have led you to a job like this. What is your job? Tell us what you do there.
Yeah. So, Paul, I'm really lucky because I have a job that almost feels like it was made for me, right?
Yes, I believe that.
So good. It's incredible. So I look after government and stakeholder relations. I work with our CEO, Vincent Desto, and the incredible peers I have in our leadership team. I don't think I've ever worked in a team like this. Everyone brings experience and capability, but so collaborative. And in my role, I am supporting our organisation to ensure that we have great working relationships with all of the key stakeholder partners we have. So our clients, the Department of Transport, we operate the network through a franchise contract on behalf of the state. But as you know, we work in a multimodal network. So there are other operators, metro trains, the bus companies, and of course, in operating a multimodal network, we need to be talking to those operators and really working together around how do we best support passengers who are moving around our network, but also the lessons learned, like how can we be helping each other, or what's a hot topic that you're working on and what could we learn from that? And I think there's such great opportunity with that. But also we work a lot with local government. So our tram network operates all across Melbourne. As I said, there's 24 routes. And so with that, we work with our local partners as well, but also community organisations. We have a really vast array of stakeholders, and it's really important. And also, I think what's great about my role is I continue to be connected into key people who represent different industry associations or groups, so we can remain connected into what are the latest trends, what's best practice, what are the lessons learned, and I think that's so incredibly important. So I feel super lucky. I love this role, and I still get to work with so many different people I know across the industry, and it's really exciting.
Michelle, you're really well known in Australia for being a great advocate for female leaders. Can you tell us a bit about that passion and what you think is important?
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. So, we know each other. So, actually, women in transport and profiling women and supporting younger women in developing their careers and helping in any way I can to give them the confidence to work in this industry is a super passion of mine. And I think that I've always been an advocate for women, and then in entering transport, as with many of these industries that have technical components, what I found is that the representation of women was certainly not 50-50. And back in 2019, I actually, when I was the CEO of the Public Transport Association in Australia and New Zealand back then, I started a podcast and I host that podcast. It's called Women Who Move Nations, and it is continued to be produced by Public Transport Association. So Lauren Streifer, the CEO, who I know is also on this podcast, kindly lets me still interview women, and because she knows how important it is to me. And through that, profile senior women and hear about their careers, but also their thoughts on transport. Where's transport going? What are the trends? What's the work that they do to improve the end outcome for customers of the network? So that is a real passion project of mine. And we have thousands of listeners and people write into me from all around the world. I recently had a woman write to me and she said, the reason why I went for a promotion at work is because I was inspired by this podcast episode I listened to. So that was just super heartwarming.
That's so great.
Yeah, I just love that. And I think, I've been involved in so many different initiatives. I started a Women in Mobility network in Australia, bringing women together over dinner and lunches to be able to connect and know each other. I started a women's network in the Department of Transport and Planning when I was there. I've sat on the federal government's National Women in Transport CEO Advisory Board. I don't like to promote myself too much, but as part of this, I'm always telling women in my network, you need to highlight the achievements you have. And actually something for me that means a lot to me is that last year I was awarded a public sector network Women in STEM award for mentoring in Victoria. And that was really great because I think through that help to profile the importance of mentoring women in our industry. You know, Paul, Kelly, the statistics are still not great about female representation in transport. So just to give you a snippet, in Australia, 4% of CEOs who work across the transport industry, so broader than public transport, but in transport, only 4% of female. It's a pretty dire statistic, let's be real, right? And 20% of executive roles are held by females. Now, so I talked earlier about what attracted me to Yarra Trams, and one is like my personal passion around the importance that the tram network plays for people to be able to get around to where they need to go. But the other thing is that our organisation is taking their responsibility to increase diversity really seriously. Our senior leadership team is 50-50 female-male. Our Chief Operating Officer and Deputy CEO, Liz Reddy, is amazing. She is one of the most incredible people that I've worked with. And, you know, to have that senior person in our organisation, and to be honest, she is one of the most senior females working in an operational role in Australia. There isn't that many of them. That is great because she's an inspiration, and our board is chaired by a woman, and 4 out of 7 of our board members are women, right? So that's just incredible. I mean, I can't do the maths on that, but 4 out of 7, it's definitely over 50%, right? So, you know, we've got a driver workforce that's 31% female. We've got targets internally for, you know, what we want the gender representation to look like, and it's a big focus for us. So, look, the thing is, Paul, you know, the stats I shared about what's happening in Australia overall, we have seen change. You know, there is change happening, and there's certainly women coming through the pipeline, but there's still work to do. There's no doubt about that.
Thanks for sharing that passion with us. It definitely is important. All right, so now we're going to switch to a couple fun topics to wrap up our interview. You know, one of the things that was interesting about my visit there to Australia, I know people know this, you know, in their mind, but it's a long way there. It's 23 hours from the East Coast of the United States to fly there. And it's literally, you know, they call it the land down under here in the U.S. Maybe you call us the land up over. I don't know what you call the U.S., but it is completely the opposite of us. I mean, you're warm down there, right? I've got 8 inches of snow outside my window, and people can't see it, but Kelly's got the beach behind her in the picture. And you all are on the summer break down there. So there's a lot of difference. As a matter of fact, Kelly and I did like a little Abbott and Costello routine on the episode of Transit Unplugged TV about the opposites between Australia and the U.S. But one thing that's common between both of us is both places love coffee, right? So Melbourne's considered a big coffee city, like you mentioned, 7th times in a row, voted the most livable city. And you all have great food down there. Just it's a foodie's paradise. So I was really happy a couple years ago when you joined us, along with Howard Collins and a couple other folks from down there, in my comfort food cookbook. And what was the recipe you did there? And then what's your like go-to meal on the weekend when you're not working? What do you like to make?
Yeah, Paul. Well, we are foodie paradise, and we're very proud of that. We think we have the best food in Australia. We do, Kelly, we do. I know you don't live in Melbourne.
No, I agree.
So, well, Paul, the cookbook, and I felt very honoured that you asked me to provide a recipe. The recipe I provided in that is actually spanakopita, which is spinach pie, as a recipe I learnt from my grandma, right?
That's right.
So she was a very inspiring woman to me, yeah. Now, you know, the thing is about Aussies, in the land down under, which we don't call ourselves. We know that people globally do, yeah. And we don't call the US the land up under. We just call you the US, FYI.
Yeah. I didn't hear anybody say that when I was there, but that's good.
Yeah. So we've got this great Aussie culture of having a barbecue. It's a real barbecue on the weekend when there's a kind of a public holiday or a cultural event, the barbie comes out. And so, like, for me, I just love a barbie. I love the steaks on the barbie, the sausages, the salads we do. And it always has to end with a pavlova. Do you know what a pavlova is?
No, tell me that.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit Aussie. It is the best dessert ever. It's like a big circle of meringue, and then you top it with fresh cream and berries and passion fruit. Some people might put some kiwi on there. You can get creative, right?
Mango.
Whatever fruit you got in the fruit bowl, yeah? But it's just delicious, and it's such an Aussie thing. Good. Yeah, so you have your barbecue, then you have your pavlova.
All right, that sounds good. Did we try that, Kelly? I tried so many foods.
No, we did not try pavlova.
All right, maybe for next time. All right, Kelly, close us out.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Michelle. And I really, you talked about your passion for promoting female leaders, and I've seen that in real life in my workplace where people are getting opportunities for mentoring and opportunities to be part of the Emerging Mobility Leaders with PTAANZ, which has just been fantastic. So I want to personally thank you for your work, because I think you are making a difference, and, you're getting your voice heard in lots of important places. And it's just been great to have you on. It's really exciting to hear you at Yarra Trams, the icon, absolute Melbourne icon. We can't wait to see how it all goes there for you. So thank you for joining us. And thanks, Paul, for making this opportunity possible.
Thank you so much, Kelly. I just want to say it's been so great to connect with such an amazing female in this industry. I really do appreciate, the connection we have as colleagues, as friends. And Paul, thank you so much for this opportunity. I absolutely love the work that you do and that you profile what's happening in transport around the world. And I still remember that podcast that we collaborated on. And so who knows, we might do one again in the future, but, really appreciate that. And I really am going to encourage all of the audience on Women Who Move Nations to give your podcast a listen to, because this visit to Australia has just been great.
Thanks again, Michelle, for doing this, and send my best regards to all our colleagues there at Yarra Trams. I started out our episode of Transit Unplugged TV talking about all the great things in Melbourne, and then, wrap it all up with, and everyone rides Yarra Trams, because it is the truth. It's not just for people getting to work. It's not just for tourists. It's for everyone all day. It really is the lifeline or the vein of the city, the artery of the city, I guess, that everyone uses. And that's the way we want public transit to be around the world, which is why I wanted to showcase Melbourne and Yarra Trams so much, because that's my vision as a transit evangelist for how transit should be viewed around the world. Everyone sees it as a great way to get around. Easy, customer service, everywhere you want to go, as often as you want to go. I mean, you guys got it going on.
Yeah, thank you. We do. Oh, look, it's such a privilege to work at Yarra Trams. I mean, I know that when people overseas think about transport in Australia, they think of Yarra Trams, right? And how cool is that? And as you say, I've never heard anyone say it's like the vein of our city, but it is. Yeah, it's the heart of it. It's the fabric of our city. It's iconic. Yeah, so it's great. And I encourage everyone to come visit.
Wow, Paul, weren't they just fabulous? Such a great selection of women from Australia.
Yeah, amazing interviews, amazing women leaders. My favorite part of going on these trips is not just the cool places we get to visit, the great food we get to eat, but the friends we make. And I feel like with all of these ladies, we've made friends with them. We're going to continue to hear and see from them. And what's crazy, Kelly, is all these interviews really just wrap up our first part of Melbourne. Where are we going after this?
Right. Yeah, after this, we head up north to Queensland, my home state. So really looking forward to bringing some stories from up around my homeland.
Yeah, coming up soon, we'll have a couple other podcasts with Steve Butcher from John Holland, Australia, which is one of the partners in Yarra Trams, and Ryan Murphy from the Brisbane City Council, a great leader for transit there, head of their transportation committee on the City Council. We have podcasts coming up with them, and you could see them on our upcoming episode of Transit Unplugged TV from Brisbane. It's amazing, it's you and I did that little Abbott and Costello routine almost for our Melbourne episode of Transit Unplugged TV. I was saying funny things, how we say them in America, and you said, no, well, over here we say that. It's a really good one, I think. But at the end, we toasted to the fact that the more things are different,
more things are the same.
That's right. Whether we're talking best practices of transit in cities like Miami or LA, we're going to now hear great best practices from cities in Australia like...
such as Melbourne, Hobart, Brisbane, Sydney.
Boom. It's all coming to you here exclusively on Transit Unplugged. Thanks, Kelly, for being my co-host on this episode of Transit Unplugged, the world's leading transit executive podcast. And again, thank you for all the great work you did setting up the 40 different events that we participated in our 10 days in Australia.
No worries, Paul. It was fun.
A classic Australian response. No worries.
Thank you for listening to Transit Unplugged, and thank you to Lauren Streifer, Jamie Lee Owen, Katie Cooper, and Michelle Batsas for being on the show. Hi, I'm Tris Hussey, editor of the podcast, and a special thank you goes out to our guest co-host, Kelly Chapman. Kelly wrangled, planned, and coordinated the whole trip for Paul and the team while they were in Australia, and none of the 5 podcast episodes or 2 Transit Unplugged TV episodes could have happened without her. And coming up next week on the show, we have our final episode from Australia. This episode features Ryan Murphy, Chair of Transport for the Brisbane City Council. Paul and Ryan talk about Brisbane's amazing ferry system and everything the city is doing to get ready for the 2032 Olympics. And as it happens, on Transit Unplugged TV, we're featuring Brisbane on our latest episode. Transit Unplugged is brought to you by Modaxo. At Modaxo, we're passionate about moving the world's people, and at Transit Unplugged, we're passionate about telling those stories. So until next week, ride safe and ride happy.